Hello, hello. We are back again. Gonna be doing a little bit of a shorter stream, but continuing on with the Nuzlocke run that we started over the weekend, I believe it was. Yeah. Just finishing getting everything set up here. And it should be, which one was it? Yeah. What in the world? Okay, there we go. So if I remember right, we had bought, yep, drifting car and then used it once. And then I think both the Chevelle and the Corolla will be just fine as far as early game for sure. Those are the two modes I'm least worried about. I think the grip mode and the speed challenge is really going to be the part that's tough to find the right set of cars for. But at least I didn't choose wrong as far as trying out new cars for the drag and drift modes so that we can keep continuing on basically. Okay, so now we're on to the first showdown event here. Adjust my volume there a little bit. Yo, what's going on, man? So basically the way that I've been playing the game for a number of years now, do you know what like a Nuzlocke run is? It started with like the Pokemon games, I believe, but it's kind of like a challenge to play through, usually RPGs, but the setup of this game, the way the campaign works, it actually works pretty well with it also.
Seriously, that was pretty cool, Rio. Thanks for putting on a little show for the fans out there. We all really.
Yeah, so the main point is to make money like a limited resource, and that way, with the rules that I've got, like you can fail the game. Because normally you play the game and you could just keep retrying, farming cash, and doing whatever you need to do to beat out the game. With this one being set up the way it is with like the different tiers, um, it's like I want to get through all of that and be Street King with all these limitations on how I can get there. So the basic first element is that I can only do each race one time. So if I mess up, there's no restarts or whatever. Or if I don't get first, I don't get the full amount of cash or points that goes towards beating the race days. I just have to deal with that. So like I can fail by not winning enough race days to unlock the next part of the career. So that's one potential way I could lose a run. Um, There's also like damage. I can't use the repair markers that give you like free damage and total repairs. I have to pay for it with cash. And then, like the Pokemon stuff, if your Pokemon gets 0 HP, like you can't use that Pokemon again. So if I total a car, I can't use it again. I can't sell it for cash. Like it's just stuck in my garage and I've lost all the money that I've spent on it. And then again, because I can't redo races, I can't farm cash. So there's like a limited amount of money that I have to try and beat the game with. Um, I've also got, there's the events where you don't use your cars, you use the ones that they give you, and then it lets you keep one of them afterwards. I don't let myself use those free cars or sell them. So like they just have to sit in my garage unused. Let's see. I think the other major one would be like damage. There's the light damage, uh, heavy damage, and totaled. So if I get light damage, then I can repair that with cash between races and keep using the car. If I get heavy damage though, I can't use that car for the rest of the race day. So like if I put this car in the wall right now, it's my first event of the race day. I would have to go like only do drag races or use like if I had a backup grip car, I could use that. But basically if I get heavy damage, it's done for the full like race day, but then I could repair it afterwards and use it for another race day. So it's just trying to make the game more challenging, kind of in a realistic way. Because that's at one of the rallies we were at. We went off the road and like bent a control arm, and we were able to make it through the rest of the event. And then we wrecked another time last November, and that one we went off a lot faster, and it actually like bent the whole suspension to where the front wheel was like tucked up against the chassis. And it's like, yeah, you're not fixing that, in a day. Like we had to basically tow it home, which is kind of like that heavy damage you can get in this game is kind of what that's simulating or representing, I guess. Um, but early in the game, obviously, it's a pretty easy game. It really gets challenging towards the end whenever you get those speed challenges, and then also like the last level grip races where you're going up against like the R35s and the 911 Turbo Coupes. Like those cars are genuinely fast in this game, and like so you would basically want to make sure you're not making mistakes so by the time you get there you have enough money to buy a car that can beat those cars. And then obviously speed challenge is always going to be an issue. Like that game mode is so tough um, that's always going to be a challenge. So um, basically the idea is to be street king. Obviously you can completely fail and like get stuck because you don't have money or you didn't like dominate or win enough race days to unlock the next tier of races. And so like you could completely fail run that way. I think though that like just being showdown king or getting like some of the king titles is still like a successful, run of the game. But obviously the ideal way to do it is to get all the king crowns and be street king. I have done that twice out of the 10 or so times that I've like attempted this challenge. Um, I got through it for the first time, and then the second time I thought I'd do it on stream to kind of show it off. And I used the same cars that I beat the game with the time that I did it. And I thought maybe like talking on Twitch, interacting with people, that sort of stuff would make it more difficult. But actually, I beat it again first try. And so this time I'm forcing myself to use cars that I haven't used before. And so that's going to be interesting because especially the speed challenge and the grip races, like I always use the '03 Mustang GT because it's actually super, super good at speed challenges. If you put like full aero on it and full upgrades, it can do 250. Cruising speed on it is like 200 and anywhere from like 202 to 220, depending on if you got like a slipstream behind somebody or not. And then the arrow on it, like all the bumps and everything are almost completely not a factor anymore. Like it just sucks to the ground really well. The only car that I've seen that's better would be the McLaren F1. But I'm not gonna get to use that this time. So when we get there, it'll be a total guess as far as what type of car I try to use and whether or not that will actually be enough to get us through the game. I guess speaking of the F1, that's the only other thing is that I don't let myself use the cars that are $0. I know years ago, like there is an editor for all the Need for Speed games that you can like load up and mess with files. There are actually like cash values that the programmers put in for those add-on cars, but for some reason it didn't implement correctly, so they're all $0. I had messed around with it a little bit myself to try and make them actually cost something, but couldn't get it to work. Um, so it would be cool if somebody could figure that out so that I could actually use those cars because there's a pretty cool variety of them. But there's still plenty of cars in the base game that do have money. God, man, missing it by 1 point. This is such a weird and interesting game mode because back when this game first came out, I mean, nobody was really knew what a sector was. Like nowadays, because Formula One and all that, it's getting more popular, so people like know what that means. But 2007 or 8 or whatever, like this was such a foreign concept. Um, but it can be pretty interesting. I have seen some stuff about handling mods. Yeah, I know I missed Dare's stream, which I was uh, bummed out whenever I saw that he was streaming Pro Street. Missed out on that one. I'll have to ask you, I guess, also how to get that mod going. I know there's a few like rebalance and retool mods for this game. I'm pretty sure the one that does the handling, there was like one guy that I caught the very end of his stream, and he actually had like a racing wheel like you would use for a sim rig set up on Pro Street with that handling mod, and he said it was really good to play. And told him to add me on Discord, but then I never heard from him, and I haven't seen him streaming since either, so don't know what happened there.
Oh my. Alrighty, what was I just talking about? By the way, everybody,
Yeah, I mean
thanks for
anymore that's the
listening
only
to
way
us.
you can do it. I've got
Got a
the
little game
game, like the
here
vanilla
today,
game,
but
saved on a hard
we
drive
lost a few
because years
cars,
back I
and
even reached out to
we
EA because I have it like on my old
did
Origin
hear
account.
funny stuff
I
about the
have Pro
local
Street like
accountant
listed in the
and the
library, but you
neighbor.
couldn't download
Also,
it.
there's a
And I even reached out to them like,
Subaru
I bought this like, and they're like, yep,
WRX in the
sorry, we
parking
just
lot.
don't have it as
Nice
a thing
car
anymore. So
with lights,
the only way to get
fog,
it is just to get the
security.
files like that.
Can't get on after you're
Um,
gonna need a jump to get home.
let's go ahead and
Seriously,
do a
guys,
drag event. Hopefully we can get enough points to just be done with
we got round
the
one.
showdown
Round one
event
coming right
off of
up.
these and not have to do that last
Everybody light it.
grip race,
Are you
but we'll see.
folks ready to make some
I did notice
noise?
with this Chevelle, I haven't used it before, but it does appear that for some reason third gear accelerates way harder than the other gears. So I found that like as soon as I shift into second, I can just shift into third and then run third gear all the way up to red line and then shift, and it's faster than shifting in the green on them normally, which I'm not sure why it does that. I haven't seen that before in another car. It'll be interesting to see because right now it's still basically stock. I think I got through like the rewards at the end of the race days, I think I got like a tire package and a suspension package, but I haven't put any power mods into it yet. The weird thing was though, when I put the level one tires on it, it actually seems to have changed like the gear ratios somehow because it had been like um, hitting 130 at a certain gearing, and I noticed that it was hitting 130 at a different RPM, just with tire being different, and that was it. This game is definitely odd with how everything actually works. Yeah, I wonder, I honestly wonder if it's there was a rebalance mod that was like around years ago, and I want to say it was mostly in Russian, and it seemed like it was pretty early in its stages, but it was like handling rebalance, and then the opponents were much, much harder. Um, But yeah, that's one. It's kind of like this game, and I think Tokyo Extreme Racer Drift 2 or 2 that like if the opponents were just faster, then the vanilla game would be like so much better. Yeah, 325. I think that's faster because I know when I was messing with the files years ago, you could turn off the speed limiter so that the vanilla cars could go faster than 250. And I think even with that though, I don't think any of them ever hit 325. Um, but yeah, because like this game, 250 feels fast, which is what's so nice about it because most games like they say you're going like a certain speed, but it's not actually to scale. You know, like 250 miles an hour in some games, like it's just a number on the screen. You're not actually going anywhere close to that. I think like the underground games and stuff, like you're not actually going as fast as it's saying. But this game, you know, it's not one to one, but it's much much closer. Where 250 is like, yeah, you got to be on it because it's very easy to mess up. But yeah, I think two or 325. I think that has to be faster than the stock cars can go, even when you turn the limiter off, or the vanilla cars. Do you know there is like one of my major complaints about the game is that especially it's more noticeable in speed challenges, but it's kind of there all the time. If you cut across the front of an opponent's car, they just like slam on the brakes to like try and avoid any kind of a collision. And I feel like the game would be much better if that wasn't there. Okay, yeah. And I don't know if there's, because yeah, I messed with the files quite a bit whenever I was poking around with that tool set, and it seems like there is like a value to it. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like some kind of a buffer zone, and I set all the values to zero, and it didn't seem to change anything. So, um, like that editor lets you mess with some values in the game, but it seems like there's actually further code to it that really sets how that stuff works. I think another cool thing would be is if you could blow your motor in the other game modes other than just drag racing. Because like right now in speed challenges, grip racing, drifting, like you can just downshift and you know in real life it'd send the motor to 12,000 RPM or whatever and it'd tear itself apart. But in this game you can just literally like let it bang off the rev limiter and slow you down. Um, I think you know, because blown motor in drag racing just gives you heavy damage, but even that would be enough in the other modes as well if you money shift to actually have consequences. Yeah, man, my launch off the line there made a huge difference. That one was over half or almost no over half a second faster in that second one just off the launch because everything else was the same. Seven, okay, I wasn't sure if that was going to get us through with the showdown.
Well, J-Mac, that was just totally whatever. This Cooper guy should just stick with the street racing, you know? Go home,
Ryu is
get
actually
some
somewhat of an
coffee with
interesting
me,
character because there are people like that in the racing community that it's not many of them. Like the racing community is actually, for the most part, really, really chill and awesome. But there are a few people who would see somebody, you know, like he has beef with Ryan from the very first time he watches him do like an amateur race. And the realistic version of that is, yeah, like he sees somebody that he can tell has genuine talent and is just immediately like, I don't ever want to have to face that guy. So I'm just going to keep trying to get sponsors to look the other way or whatever, like talk bad about him. So maybe he goes away. Um, Stay okay. And that is so this screen is actually super valuable with the Nuzlocke stuff because if I get like a repair marker or whatever, I can't use it, so that's a waste. And then Cooper's 240, I don't ever modify it, so the fact I got a stage one engine package, that is also a waste. Usually cash is the best thing you can get with the Nuzlocke rules. Sometimes though, if you get like a upgrade that actually helps one of your cars, then that can be worth more money than the cash itself. But cash is nice because it's flexible, like you can use it for repairs if you need to, that sort of thing. So it also makes that reward system a lot more interesting than just clicking through it and going on, doing the race day again or whatever. Um, but yeah, so this is actually my one of my favorite events in the game because the GTO around this track, the way they have it set up, it feels like the Australian V8 supercars look. Like when you watch footage of them going around the tracks, like they lean super hard, but then they just like completely stick on whatever trajectory they're at around the corner. And it's like with the game's vanilla physics and whatever tuning they set on this car, like you throw it into a corner and then it just sticks. And yeah, it feels really, really good when you get it right.
Tested to the fullest. Only the fastest will survive. Wait, here we go then. Get ready to let the drivers feel. Yes, there it is. That's the start of the goal. Now that's a great start. And look, he's in the lead just before.
Yeah, talking about that AI being tougher, that stuff does kind of happen sometimes in first turn of a race. Some people can get it wrong, and then because everybody's so bunched together, they got nowhere to go except off the track. I think between there's this one and then there's Infineon. I think those are my two favorite tracks. It seems like they have the right amount of straightaways to like complex corners and simple corners that really fits the physics model in a fun way. I really like there's at Infineon, you've got like those S curves that go down the hill towards the hairpin that goes back to the straightaway, and like getting a car set up to where you can just blast those at full throttle. Not at all realistic, but it feels really good to nail in this game for sure.
Okay, well, first lap still underway. It looks like we've got a bit of jockeying for position going on out there.
Yeah, I pinched that corner off. I should have gone back to the right before I made the left turn, staying on the inside there. You really have to slow down to not go off the track.
I hope you're ready to make some noise when the driver crosses the know that you like what you've seen here today. Oh, this is a bloody brilliant drive by Ryan Cooper there. Cooper's charged. He's got a little bit more to go before the wave the checkered flag, and then he's won it. Well, this should be it for Cooper. Well, this is it, ladies and gents. The final lap, the last time around, and you can tell the drivers are getting very anxious out there. Keep an eye on the line. Here's Cooper, the Ryan Cooper out front, looking very
Nope.
confident. Just
Don't know
one
why I
last
thought that
lap.
needed to be second gear.
Looking good for the lead. Come on, get your fingers crossed for him. We want to see him take this one from here.
Nice, 9200.
too many of anymore. That's Gavin May from the Grip Runners team in the Cosworth Escort.
The
They've
real
got
interesting one is this Rio Watanabe record because it's a sector shootout, so you have to beat
Okay, are we ready to keep going?
the score
I'm getting the
like
signal, so
strategically.
hang on.
Because yeah, with sector shootout, like
Anyone's race.
the first lap you're going basically as
And who's
fast
the
as you
fastest now?
can,
It's
and then the
Gordon.
second lap you might have to adjust a little bit, where like you just let off the gas coming up towards a checkpoint so that you don't get the full amount. Because if you then use the throttle the whole way through it the next time by on your last lap, even if you beat it by 1 point, that's still however many hundreds of points more than just doing it a couple points better for the second lap and then not being able to beat it on the last lap. That's the ideal way about it, although obviously I didn't even get the first sector there, so not a great start. Yeah, they're definitely an interesting idea. I know there are some maps where it just doesn't work like at all because the end of the last checkpoint compared to where you start the lap, like your first lap from a dead stop is going to be faster because the distance that you have to travel extra coming back around the next time, like even at full speed, you're not going to get the same amount of points. Um, and whether, it's not like you would ever actually have this as a race. It's something that really only matters in like qualifying as far as it being a big deal, which obviously like a Simcade game like the understeer for some reason. Simcade game like this, there is no qualifying or anything like that. Yeah, it definitely depends on the track. I think it's some of the Tokyo dockyards are some of the worst from what I remember. But what I'm doing now is looking at the 4 zones to see. I've got 2 NOS, so I'm basically picking out the 2 zones that are worth the most amount of points, and that's where I'm going to use my NOS on the last lap to try and get better points hauls there. Because right now I don't think I'm breaking Rio's record.
Lap two then, lap two. Looking good so far. Dogfights just starting at the beginning. I know none of these drivers expect to emerge from this without a few bumps and scrapes on their shoulder.
Oh, what? I thought I had it. Dang. Missed it by 2. I looked away and it was still in the 420s, and I thought I would get there. I actually almost think it might be worth doing the first 2 sectors because the second one has that long straightaway, where the third sector is pretty like winding. I'll go ahead and use it here actually so we can get a little bit more on that last sector and come into the first one at a higher speed. But I think I'll be able to use the NOS a little bit better at the end of the second sector rather than the start of the third. Because they're so close in point value anyways.
So our final lap is on. I hope you're ready to make some noise when the driver crosses the line. What you've seen here today.
Yeah, that's so much faster through there. And get it slowed down. Yeah. Burn that a little bit.
Final lap is underway, ladies and gents. This is the last lap. I hope you're ready to make some noise when the driver crosses the line.
Hey, got it that time. By 1 point, wow. So I went a little bit faster into the hairpin because of the NOS I used down the straightaway, but my hairpin also wasn't as clean. Just enough though to score an extra 420 points, which 4281 on the total. I think that, yeah, because it's like 4500 for a win with no damage, so yeah, that should be plenty to beat the record. Yeah, I wasn't gonna get that one. Not too bad though. Yep.
Ah, yes, there we are. There's the Apex Glide team. Now, anyone who was out here on the track last night is going to recognise them. They were here just having a look around, so they
Trying to
do
think.
know their way
That
around the place.
one.
You know, there's no
Yeah, that's
shame
the
in
full one.
losing to those guys. They've really...
We'll keep it in the GTO.
Okay, everybody, here's round one.
I think this track is the one that has my favorite drifting sections
We're
too.
going to find out just what
Like
this
it's
driver
realistic
can
that
do.
they do the point to
So get
point. That
ready
is
to
how it
find
is in
out how to pass
competition.
on the
But
brakes.
obviously
He's
this has
ready
the
to go
same
now.
problem that most
Yes,
drifting games do, where it's
yes,
like,
there it
hey man,
is.
as long as you're sideways somewhere on the track, you're getting points, and that's not at all what competition drifting is like. I think actually one of the best games that is close to competition drifting is that mobile game FR Legends. I play that like almost every day because that is the closest to what competition drifting is, and the fact that it has like computer opponents that you can actually play against. It seems crazy that the big titles can't do that same thing. Only 2800 though.
I can't wait to see what Ryan Cooper will do. He's a... Oh, okay, just a few ticks more, just a few
But yeah,
ticks.
within this game, the point-to-point setup that it has, I think Autopolis has some of the closest to what like real drifting sections look like. Yeah, that's about the only time you get going around in a circle like that is kind of grassroots stuff in the US. There are some places that literally, paved, circle track stuff, they'll, have events there. It definitely won't be anything competition wise. But yeah, the fact that you would do like laps is definitely not how that works.
I'm sure Cooper can do better. He's not firing on all cylinders just yet.
It does seem like an awfully low point total. I'm not sure why.
Right, this is the last chance for these
All of a sudden
drivers.
my front
The
rims
last
are
lap
chrome there.
is... Oh, hang on, wait for it, wait for it. There's our start.
That is a
This is
weird
it.
thing about this game.
Yes, yes,
It's almost like the AI or opponent, like their car rims override your own. So if there's a car that you encounter at a race day that has the same type of rim, your rim dimensions and color can change to what the opponent has, which is a little bit frustrating, especially I think for drag cars because those look so good with like the super wide rear tires and small diameter, and then it'll get overridden by another car's like basic looking rear rims. And then that time I was just that much more. That's so bizarre.
good job, Mr.
I
Cooper.
thought for sure I was going to
That
hit
is
that
exactly what you needed.
concrete pillar there. Oh, like the rim switch? Yeah, that's been in the game since release.
Well, we're off to quite a start this weekend, and it would be
Oh,
remiss of me not
missed it
to
by that
mention
much.
Ryan Cooper. Cooper's made the jump on
I think
sprint
2
racing.
laps
He's
here
off
is
to
going
a
to be
cracking start.
quicker than doing another drift event. And at that point, we'll need to start looking at a new grip car because it's not very far into this level of racing that Cooper's original 240SX is not good enough anymore. Thankfully, the way the game started for me, I do have quite a bit of cash to get a car going, but it will be interesting because I'll have to pick a car that I haven't used before. Normally I go for the RX-7 because that one can basically take you to the end of the game, but it's not good enough to beat those like top tier uh, grip cars that you face on the way up to like facing off against the Grip King. I think even like the showdown, the final showdown stuff, it's good enough to beat the Grip King and Rio, but not enough to beat like the regular opponents that you face that late in the game. So I'll have to find another car besides it or the Porsche 911 Turbo is the other one that I used previously. I'm thinking something all-wheel drive. I don't think anything rear-wheel drive, and definitely not front-wheel drive, would be good enough. So maybe something like the R34 or R35 or the STI. I know I did one time try the Evo 9, and it's faster in a straight line than the Porsche, but the handling is not anywhere near as good. And so, especially because that last set of grip races before the Grip King is at Willow Springs, and that has a lot of tight corners where the Evo would, or the Evo 9 would really, really struggle. I've actually never used the Evo 10. Um, oh boy, I just never liked the looks when that car first came out. So that might be another one to look at. Trying to think if there's. I think I used to use when I was playing the game casually when it first came out. I would use the Audi RS4, but I don't know how good that car actually is because back then obviously I was just restarting as many times as I needed to win races. I think there's also there's the regular S4 and the S3. So there's a lot of options, but which ones would actually be good enough to beat the game with will be interesting to find out. Another 10 grand. So this is actually the most important part of this is that we actually get a reward here. 7,500 cash, I'll take that. And then we've got a car we can't use, which I went ahead on the battle machine level races. I did use or I bought because Nevada Highway has some drifting events. So I bought a AE86 Corolla for that. So I've already got that taken care of. I think the Chevelle will be good enough to see the whole game out just from what I've seen so far. So I think those two are pretty well covered. It's mainly going to be uh, oh, there's also the TT. But yeah, it's mainly going to be the grip and speed cars that are kind of the question mark that I have right now. I don't think the Cosworth is quick enough for the end of the game. Evo is, but it's not. It can't turn. We might do the Evo 10. I think I have tried the Eclipse before and it wasn't good enough either. I haven't used the Skyline. And then there's also, oh, I didn't, yeah, there's the R32 Volkswagen. Hmm. I think the STI is the cheapest besides the Eclipse, so the cheapest of stuff that I'd look at using. Yeah. It might be worth going with that so that I have more flexibility and cash if I have to try something else later. Because if I sink money into, like this 45 grand Audi and then it turns out not to be the right car, then I've spent that much more on it, having to switch to another platform. So yeah, I think I will go with the Hawkeye. Subaru here. For sure, we're going to throw some NOS at it. Now the question is, what would be the best first upgrade? Because I have not driven this one before. I think I want to stay away from the engine just because if you don't do like the full stage 3, it's so expensive anyways that you're dropping 13, 24 grand. You know, that's a significant amount of money to invest without knowing what the car needs first. I think drivetrain would be more of an impact than turbo. I think we'll probably go with that. Yeah, okay. And then we'll just see what it's like if I need to adjust the gearing, that sort of thing. Oop. Oh yeah, that's right. So this one, very early on, you start getting access to the speed challenge stuff. So we'll basically go around that to other events and then circle back to those. So back to Autopolis.
Well, what do you know? Ryan Cooper is here today, and in case you thought he wasn't going to be
Also, I
part of
hate
this
that
adventure,
lakeside circuit.
all-wheel drive with a Subaru
That's not
WRX,
really going
this
to
is
be a
how
good
you should
indication of what
drive.
this car is like, so we'll just do the time attack.
Oh, and we are
The
about to
physics of
head
this
into
game
the
really do not
fun
gel
racing
with that
simulator.
that tight of a
For some
circuit.
excellent drivers, we're about to have a whole new race out there. They're off. That's the start, ladies and gents. That is the start.
Actually, it turns pretty well. I am happy with how much it accelerated there off the line. Looks like just with the drivetrain upgrade, it has good low end acceleration, which the engine and turbo should help its top end stuff. So that's definitely hopeful. It's got a nice balance to it in the turns too, not too much oversteer or understeer. It's usually understeer that you're fighting with all-wheel drive cars, but it's got a nice turn in. And then yeah, I can move the control stick a little bit and it will adjust. That's the problem if I remember right with the Eclipse is that like you'd throw it into a corner and it would either understeer or it might stick, but then whatever trajectory it had through the corner was kind of what you got. You weren't able to really maneuver if you needed to. See if I can get a slipstream here. So I always use all of my NOS on the second lap to maximize my lap time since this mode, both the points that you get for um, like beating the race day and your position in the race itself are just based off the single lap time. The first lap's never going to be your fastest lap because you're starting from a standstill. You'll always be faster on the second and third lap. And I've just noticed I've messed around with it a little bit and I seem to, for whatever reason, do better on the second lap than the third one. So I always just do the first lap to make sure I remember what the track layout is and then use all my NOS on the second lap. And then the third one just kind of make sure I get around without damaging the car. Yeah, this seems like a good car so far because that was a lot of understeer and then I gave it some gas and it actually pulled me towards the inside of the corner, which is what you want. So yeah, 8 seconds faster than the standing lap using the 3 NOS and traveling it much closer to the max speed across the line. But yeah, I think this was a good choice. Happy with the handling and the braking so far with its stock, so hopefully upgrading it will be nothing but improvements. I have noticed sometimes with the grip cars or the cars in grip mode, you can actually upgrade them too far. Um, like the Integra Type R. if you put level 3 stuff on it, it actually is worse than it is with level 2 stuff. And same sort of thing with the RX-7. If you put level 3 engine and turbo on it, it actually for some reason starts to handle worse. I actually prefer that car with just level 2 of everything. For whatever reason, it seems super, super nimble when it's set up that way, but if you start putting the level 3 parts on it, it seems like it just gets worse. So it'll be interesting to see if the STI has that same sort of trajectory, because I really do like the way that handled stock. Yeah, that's and like the front wheel drive car part makes sense because this was out in '08, and I know the developers went to a lot of like grassroots racing events for like scouting and just like what is grassroots racing actually like. Um, I think the video is still on YouTube, but there was like a behind the scenes where they like showed like them going out and scouting at all these events. Um, but like with front wheel drive cars back in 2008 or whatever it was, like you couldn't put, 300 horsepower to the front wheels and expect to be able to actually make it around turns and that sort of stuff. Like nowadays, like a brand new Civic Type R has more than that, but it's also got super sophisticated differential and all this stuff. So that actually makes sense for back then that the front wheel drive cars would be worse if you threw more at it. Um, and somewhat even with other cars, like if you put, a drag engine or like an engine that's high strung to do, a quarter mile with that kind of drivetrain and everything, even if you put circuit racing suspension on it, it's still not going to perform as well as a car that was completely built to do circuit racing. So there's a little bit of realism in that, which is kind of interesting. But it's like it doesn't tell you any of that. Like it doesn't, it's a Need for Speed game, so you would just expect like, oh, the higher number is always going to be better. But turns out there's actually some subtlety to it, which is interesting. Because I don't know if it was intentional or not. Like, how long did they expect people to play this? I don't think they would have thought it would have been done, for years and years and years like it is. Oh, I missed it. Dang it. Yeah. Okay, so I do need to upgrade the drag car. That's good to know. Which that's usually about how this goes. The car I used on the runs that I actually seen, I was still fast enough to get a decent amount of points out of it. But that also affects, only $800 cash compared to 1,500 or whatever it would have been to win that race. So that does affect my progress and everything. But the car I used to use for drag racing was the Charger, because that one you could definitely use from the beginning of the game all the way through the end, just upgrading it. I think the Chevelle will be like that, but it looks like I do need to invest money in it sooner than I did with the Charger. And of course, no wait, I don't have a drivetrain on it yet. That's good. So I can use that. I was hoping I'd get a whole bunch of points there to make it to where I could just do the drifting and be done, but we might have to do the lakeside circuit, which is a pain. It'll mainly be trying not to run into the other opponents on the first lap. Yeah, I could see that. And that is, especially if they've like redone the handling, then it's, you know, they could definitely set it up so that bigger is always better. That's the other one, actually, since you say stage 4 parts. I found that with the '03 Mustang GT and the speed challenges, um, I was noticing that I was actually totaling out more with stage 4 like suspension parts. It was almost like it made it too stiff, even if I set it to be soft. It would like react to the bumps, but because of the downforce, it was like super sudden. It would just like start to almost vibrate against the ground, kind of left and right, and then it would just bounce up in the air, and there's not a lot you can do there. And then it would flip over in total. So I basically, if I got stage 4 for that car as a reward, I just wouldn't use it because it seemed like for whatever reason it was really causing me to total a lot of those things. Yeah, and the Skyline with the obviously with the reworked physics, but with the all-wheel drive and everything, it's probably benefiting from that. It is generally easier to put more power down and everything through an all-wheel drive car, which this game also seems to mirror that. At least in like circuit and speed challenges. Weirdly enough, in the vanilla game, drag cars, all-wheel drive is actually slower than rear-wheel drive cars. Um, which with the type of mod, like a pro mod quarter mile car, like that thing's so modified that yeah, it could keep up with a street car that's all-wheel drive. Even as crazy as some street cars get, but like street car, oh man, how much do we miss out by 217? Dang. But street car against street car, like even if the all-wheel drive car has got a little bit less power, like it's just gonna get out of the hole so much faster than a rear-wheel drive car is. But this game doesn't model that very well for whatever reason. Basically, rear-wheel drive is always the answer for drag racing. It would be interesting to see with with that mod if that changes it at all. Oop. That is something you have to worry about from a standing start in racing is somebody might not actually be moving ahead of you. Wow, that was actually really nice. I thought I was going to understeer, but the way it hit like from the slope going down to the flat, it actually shoved me to the right. It was like the suspension rebounded. Oh, son of. So that's, oh my God. So that's the other thing that can happen. So like I said, with heavy damage, basically I can't use this car for the rest of the, man, that means so I don't dominate this race day, because that was it, wasn't it? Yeah. So whenever I get heavy damage, I also just quit out. Like you're not gonna finish the race with damage like that for real. So like if I had other race events, I wouldn't be able to use this car. Like if there was another grip event, then I could try to use the 240 as a backup, but because that was my last one, that's just where we're at. And so because of that, we're 217 points shy of dominating the race day. Thankfully, we still won it, but now I have to pay for all the damage to the STI, and I don't get the second chance of the random reward. So like that's the kind of stuff of like I said I hated that track, and sure enough, trying to be realistic and like, yeah, I'm not going to dive down the inside of everybody and just rub their doors to get in the lead. Like, you're going to sit in line and make the turn. But that also means realistically, if somebody behind you gets it wrong, it could be your problem too. So yeah, so that's like it sucks, but that's the kind of stuff I'm after is like the fact that that actually has consequences now. So yeah, 3,900 bucks. I don't know. I think we definitely got more than that from winning the race day, but I don't know if we even got that much from winning the individual races. So that's, yeah, drops me back under 50 grand now. Yeah, and that's when the car has stock bodywork, the damages aren't too bad, but as soon as you throw body kits on them, the damages really, really ramp up. But yeah, so that might affect later because, like you have to win more than you have to dominate, thankfully. But like that is one that now we cannot, like I can't go back and do that one again. So like if stuff keeps happening, we could potentially fail out and not unlock this thing. I don't think that will happen. It's usually later on, like in this, in the last tier of races that you really run into issues. But that definitely affects my ability to, keep buying parts and everything to um, progress how I want to. But we did see that the drag car wasn't quite where we wanted it, so thankfully I did get that. Do I have enough just to jump straight? Oh, I did get a stage. Okay, that must have been a reward that I got then. Oh yeah, because I didn't hear any turbo. No, I do. Wow, I got stage 2 rewards all the way around. Because I definitely try not to install anything other than stage 3 if it's a car that I know is going to take me to the end of the game, just not to spend the money on it. I must have gotten ton. Man, I got tons of rewards on this car because I also got, yeah, suspension. And tires. Wow. Hmm. So, okay. So even with the stage, wow, now I'm wondering if this is going to be quick enough at the end of the game because if I was stage two at this middle tier of races and that still wasn't enough, that's pretty iffy. That, yeah. So stage three engine would be spending like all of my money, which if something like that happened again, as far as like a damaged car, then that could be an issue. So I don't think we'll do that. It might actually be better to put a more expensive drivetrain, even though we just got the free. Well, oh, duh. I could probably use some NOS. That would probably be, that would, you know, that might be the way to go instead. I think what I'll do is NOS and tires. Since I have the stage one drivetrain for free, I might as well test out what that is like and upgrade it in other spots rather than just immediately jumping to the stage three there. And 12.9, that's probably about as much as we would want to have just in case. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So, Mondello Park. Yeah.
I had a wander down in the lab at lunchtime, and we've got an interesting afternoon coming up here at Reactive Session.
Yeah. Cool. No worries, man. Appreciate you tuning in.
Right, everybody,
It's
now
been good
get your
conversations.
seats and clear the course. Come on then, and off you go. Off
I
you
guess if
go.
you hear me yell, then you know something has gone terribly wrong. So,
Just about ready. Right, okay, the drivers, all the drivers are now on the mark. Oh yes, this is going good racing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, wasted no time getting in front, did he? They're just heading into turn one, and things are already hotting up out there today.
a little bit of a love tap from the. Yeah, I figured it was from the other Audi there. Interesting that this car is immediately in Group B though. I guess it does have 300 and some odd horsepower, around 300 horsepower stock. Make our way past the. Oh, I was watching him instead of the road. I almost went off with him. That's somewhat realistic though at this level of racing if they actually had like multi-class going on where you had slower cars and faster cars. The guy was in the lead with me right behind him and then had to overtake somebody into a braking zone. That's pretty realistic that somebody might get it wrong and end up carrying too much speed and going off like that. Whoa. Just cut back to the right on me there, thank you. Couple of RX-8s. Ooh, yep. Knew that was going to happen. Don't have race brakes on this yet, that's for sure. I saw a gap and then realized it wasn't going to be there by the time I got there. Oh, yeah, okay. So we didn't notice it at Autopolis because that's such a wide track, but definitely need brakes on this thing. The tires seem good because it's able to actually make the turns pretty well. So I think brakes would be the way to go rather than tires. Also, fifth gear seems extremely long. I guess I never got into it at Autopolis for whatever reason. It like completely bogged down as soon as I got out of fourth.
Racing, ladies and gentlemen, the finest in group driving. We're getting close to it now, right here at the front. I'm sure he makes to stay there through this final turn. This is it, the giant lights in the race, and come on, keep it going.
8,200, not bad. So it should be, yeah, 130. Again, because it's got stock body work. That little bit of a tap to get just over light damage rather than no damage isn't going to hurt me too much money-wise.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this bunch has been tuned to the nines, but I'm still curious to see which one of them can overcome this course.
Looking at that S15 there, they're starting to be importable in the US, and God, those cars look good. Like, it would be irresponsible of me because I have a pretty new Civic. It's a 2020, and I've kind of been looking at like the brand new body style. I like those a lot more, and I think like a sport touring hatchback with HPD wing and a six-speed would probably be a really nice car that would, really set me up and just like that's my car until gas cars aren't allowed anymore or whatever. Um, but man, S15s look good. It would be less practical, but boy, it would be a lot of fun. You know, it's one of those things like, yeah, I probably wouldn't really be able to take it out to like a track day, maybe autocross it every once in a while, but so much money goes into the rally car and time and everything that it's not like I could really, make it into a track day car or anything, or maybe I'd drift it once a year. But the fact that it can do all that stuff and it looks as good as it does, like, hard to turn that down. But I'm sure financing on an imported car, like, you're not going to find anywhere close to a brand new car or one that's a couple of years old or whatever. Yeah, fifth gear is super, super long in this thing. Be interesting to see if that continues whenever we put a transmission upgrade on it. It does seem like part of what the game does is even out the gear ratios, which is again somewhat realistic. Like in my Focus, the rally car, those transmissions, nobody really made parts for them or does anymore, especially. So the one we have right now is completely stock. There was a company called M Factory that made gear sets for them though, but it was just third, fourth, and fifth gear. So you would keep the stock final drive, the stock first gear, and the stock second gear because those were kind of short enough and everything. And then the final drive you just wouldn't mess with. And then you'd have a third, fourth, fifth gear where your top speed is lower, but in rally it's not like you're doing over 120 or even over 100, especially with a car that's that low powered. Um, but it would just shorten the speed difference between third, fourth, and fifth so that they're more usable. And that's really all that we need in this car right now is other than fifth gear, like the ratios are great. So either just shorten fifth up or spread out maybe third, fourth, and fifth a little bit so that the jump between fourth and fifth is not so dramatic. Like it would make your time through fourth gear a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. It'd take you longer to get through fourth gear. But then when you hit fifth, if you have that long of a straightaway, you're not just foot to the floor and car's not doing anything because the RPMs drop so much.
Now, anyone who was out here on the track last night's going to
Okay,
recognise
let's
them.
see what we get
And
here.
yeah, just having a look
What's
around, some guys
behind?
do
Let's
know their way around the place.
do door number
There's no
3.
shame in losing to those guys.
Wow, so I
They
went
really
from
are the best.
brand new
Now,
gifted
you've also
stage 1
said
to brand new
something
gifted
about
stage 2.
the
I don't know what it is with that
one
Chevelle, but
second,
I have been
everybody. You're
getting
not ready.
super lucky with the parts there. I think that's now because it was all 3 power upgrades, so engine, drivetrain, and turbo. I got gifted, and then I got gifted suspension and tires as well. So basically everything you need for a drag car because who cares about the brakes? That's crazy. That's crazy luck, for sure. That's yeah. So that's probably another reason why I've had so much money before. But of course now we've got NOS and what was the other thing? Yeah, tires. So we're about to light it up here. Didn't mean to shift all the way to fourth, but that'll work. 8:44. There we go. That's still. Wait, is this a half mile? No, 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 no. Because they're in the yeah. I just saw 17s, but that was somebody being super slow. Don't have anybody pushing us like they were though with the 9 seconds. But that was 8 seconds, and I even shifted up into fourth too early. Oh yeah, that's I need to adjust since third gear is really bizarre and accelerates faster. I actually need to adjust the gear ratios on this thing so that it stays in third gear the longest. Although actually that seems like fourth gear shifts real fast. But I think overall it just needs longer gears. Yeah, especially for half mile if I'm bouncing off the rev limiter that quickly. So install the level 2 when we're done with this, and then basically just raise the how tall they are to full and see what happens there. Might have to adjust it down a little bit, but depends on if the stage 2 transmission adds another gear or not. If we're stuck with a 4-speed, then definitely we'll crank it all the way out. But there it is, yeah. Just under 11,000. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, well. Ah, first wasted one. Okay. So, stage 2 that we got there as a reward. Does it give us an extra gear? It does give us an extra gear. Very nice. So I don't think we'll go full tall with it, just to be sure. But we definitely want to spread them out some. Don't care too much about the suspension settings yet. That should be plenty. That's the other thing is we do need to, because we've got those two Autobahn race days, we do want to save up to get a speed challenge car because that first set of races, like the speed challenge car that you have doesn't have to be all that great. Like the competition's not doing 250 in those first few races. So you have to have enough that you want to buy a car that you can beat the game with, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to dump all the money into it right away to compete in those events. We did say brakes is what we need on this one. 24 for the full pull. Yeah, we've still got a number of race days left before we have to do the Autobahn one, so that should be plenty of time to get that money back, and that should take care of the main weakness I saw in the car there, especially for Tokyo Dockyards, because that is going to be a tight setup for sure. Okay, real quick, I'm going to grab a water. Be back in just a second.
However, as you leave today, be careful because I'm sure they'll be setting up roadblocks after the races are over, so watch for those posted limits on your way home. Now, judging by the earlier races, we're going to have some real dogfights on our hands this afternoon here at React Team Sessions. Oh, hang on, I can hear the sound of engines. I suspect we're just minutes away from starting up another race. Well, in case you didn't want to hold on, hang on. I'm in the middle of something here. Right, where was I? Right, I think it's about time that I get down there and start talking to the drivers in our lineup. The track
Okay,
actually is
all
full
good.
for reconnaissance.
So let's test out our new brakes on the STI. That I upgraded the brakes and that feels like that was much faster in a straight line than it was before. This game is a little bizarre with how its upgrades actually affect things. Because it definitely, like I said, ooh, okay. Oh yeah, because fifth gear. Okay, so that needs to be the next upgrade, is a different drivetrain so that I can actually make fifth gear usable, because it's just too long right now. Um, what was I saying before? Oh yeah, because earlier I had completely stock Chevelle and got level 1 tire upgrades, and all of a sudden the gearing was different on it. So it's definitely bizarre how that works. I'm just gonna keep it on the rev limiter here. I thought that might be. Let's see, nope, even with NOS in fifth gear, we're not pulling the gap. And this is the 90-degree corner, so I definitely need to slow it down. I have lost a car to that corner thinking it was the like full speed, slight left version of the track. Went into that 90 degree at full speed, tried to get on the brakes, and just absolutely clobbered the outside wall. That was definitely a blow to the run. Yeah, that fifth gear is just not chopped across the front of that guy there a little bit too much. But yeah, fifth gear is just not it. Can't remember if these have sixth gear stock or not. Can't imagine with how tall third gear or fifth gear is that you would have one more. You do. Wow. I guess that might be good for speed challenge. Because even stock, if you had enough of a like chain of cars that you could draft off of, be interesting to see what that felt weird. That like kept moving to the left even once I turned back to the right. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the top speed of the stock STI is. Just if you just continually get cars to draft behind, because the gearing is insane. Fifth and sixth are so freaking long. But yeah, brakes seem much better. We'll give this one a shot here too. Uh-oh, two Evos. My arch nemesis. Nemesis. Nemesis? Although it's actually the 350Z here that's giving us a challenge. Wow. Oh, yeah, okay. I thought that seemed brave. His high car is now a low car after that accident. Thanks, Integra. I appreciate you parking your car in the middle of the turn there. Yeah, just to get in fourth and bounce it off the rev limiter, it seems like. Jeez. That thing gets it. Oh, come on. Thankfully, it was only light damage. That one was a little less acceptable for sure as far as ramming into me compared to what happened on the lake circuit. Actually, both of those were really tight corners that they should have known were coming out. But we'll put a gap or a group of people between me and my opponents there. must have been my rear bumper. I keep just naturally going up into fifth gear and forgetting that's not a good idea. Oh, I lost the bumper and the wing. No, it was the wing, not the bumper. Never mind. I can see the bumper hanging off on that side. 3,600 though, that should cover the damage for sure. Yeah. Okay, let's check out the Chevelle again here. And this is one, excuse me, this is one we should see some other cars in the nines, but we were able to hit eights on the last one, so we should be good still. Hmm. So now fifth gear is insanely long. So, I would say in the tuning menu, it's like I need to go ahead and increase first through fourth all the way long, and maybe even the final drive all the way long, and then shorten fifth like all the way down and see what the top speed is there. We may need to adjust fifth longer than that for like half mile races, but that seems insanely long for quarter mile stuff. Wow, almost sevens though. So yeah, as long as anything bad doesn't happen at the Autobahn, because those drag races can be tricky. It's like that is the track that might jump up and bite you. So as long as we don't total this thing there, this should be the car that finishes the game out for us. I'm just realizing that obviously with that fifth gear being that long, just get through probably through third gear and then put it in fifth and give it NOS. And that's probably the quicker way to get through that gearbox. But definitely good enough to win that. So we'll just adjust it before the next one and see what that changes. Okay, let's see. I haven't gone door number one yet, I don't think. And that's why. Complete waste. Dang. Do we want to mess with the drifting? Sure. Definitely my least favorite set of tracks for the drifting in this game, but we'll see how the stock Corolla, I think, no, I definitely put some kind of upgrade on this. It might have been a transmission. There was definitely something that was done to the, oh wait, no, I've got NOS, that's what it was. So I can get that extra 100 points. That actually hooked up surprisingly well. I am a little surprised it didn't count that as going backwards though. In this game you can't do reverse entries and still get points. The most you can be is 90 degrees. I don't know if I drifted enough through there to get the long drift bonus. Yeah, only stayed on track. Ooh, 1900, that's not good. Good enough to win, I guess, so at least I'll get the money from it. Definitely not setting any track records, though. I was thinking since drifting is one of the easiest kind of crowns to get and everything in this game that I might do like an all-motor, no turbo build just for the theming and the lulls, but only getting 1900 there, that might not cut it. We'll just have to see how the car responds to upgrades. Whoa, nope, understeer, dang. I would be curious to see what the drifting physics are like in the rebalance or rework that everybody's been playing, because they're definitely wonky in this game. Like on some of the tracks that are most like real life stuff, it does work well enough with all the assists and everything off. But unfortunately, most of the track layouts in this game for drifting are pretty wonky. Even if it was like a sim, it would not be the ideal kind of drift section. So it definitely ups the difficulty. I was wondering if I could just pin it in third. 'Cause yeah, even trying to like clutch kick or anything, it doesn't really let you swing it back the other way. And then bizarrely, that was clutch in, foot to the floor on the gas, and holding the handbrake, and that like continued to keep the car going towards the finish line. Where in real life, that it wouldn't actually do that. He would just come to a stop at that point. Okay, so I'm not going to do the other drifting event then. We'll go ahead and do the time attack, right? Yeah, because that's okay. Get that last bit of points. Don't need much, but this will be quicker than doing 3 more rounds of drifting, especially with that stock Corolla. Oh, we get to go Evo hunting. Nice. Some extra motivation. I'm actually really impressed with this car stock. I think, yeah, because the only thing we've got on it is the NOS and the brakes. But the stock amount of grip is really, really good. So I am hopeful that this will be enough to beat it's mainly like that R35 isn't super hard to beat. It's mainly that 911 turbo at the end of the game. It's kind of the toughest one to beat the grip races against. Don't know where he's at. Still next to me. Keep it on the inside. Where's he? Okay. It's just a shame that fifth gear is so freaking long. So I'll go ahead and use it now. Coming onto our second lap, we'll use the rest of the NOS this lap as well to maximize our lap time. Couldn't quite hold it pin in fifth through there, but still awfully quick. Yeah, just off the gas, no understeer really. You weren't going to be able to hold the accelerator down with that kind of a line through there, the car on the inside. But the fact that all I had to do was let off the gas and it made it was a good sign for this car going forward. He is gone though, 54? Oh crap. Oh wow. 3 NOS and that wasn't enough. What was that car off the line first? It was the S15. Jeez. He's on another level. I didn't think I'd have to upgrade the STI that much that soon. I do think though all we really need is the drivetrain because that fifth and sixth gear is just completely unusable right now. It's way, way too long. You get out of fourth gear and you just go nowhere. Because yeah, it drops more than 2,000 RPM. Way, way too long. Well, dang, didn't get first on that one. Yeah, only by a couple of tenths, under 2 tenths, 1900s. Yeah, if I had, man, because that would have been 45, so would have been just under 10,000 if we had won that one, plus the bigger amount of cash. Although, again, we were super close to dominating it, and we broke the track record anyways. So just a little bit of cash loss for not winning. Okay, come on. Okay, we'll take it. Definitely would have been better with like 10 grand or something in cash, but it's an upgrade that we don't have, so that will work. Okay, so we've got the two Autobahn races. I think because I am experimenting with new cars, it used to be I could, or with the cars that I know I can beat the game with, I could just do that half of the React Team session races and then go straight into the showdown. I think though that we will, just for safety, do a little bit more. Wait, I did do the drivetrain already? Interesting. So that's, oof, that's with stage 3 and it's like that? Because I mean, even full power upgrades, that's such a huge gap once you get up into 5th. Oh, I did do that right off the bat, didn't I? When I did the NOS, that's right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add the tires. That is a little bit worrying, actually. Let's see what a small amount of downforce, how it reacts to that. Trying to think what looks like the high-low cars that they did. What kind of wing did they have? Yeah, I think one of them looked like that somewhat. Some cars are pretty affected by aero kits and everything, so we'll see how that one adjusts. Okay, we definitely need to throw a little bit of money at this thing. Yeah, I think I did just throw on the NOS just to see what it was like stock. And that was, oh no, I did put, okay. I put on stage 3 suspension too. Did I put brakes? No, we'll just do stage 1 so we can adjust it. It still costs 45 even for this piece of junk for stage 3. Um, that's a tough one. I think drivetrain is always a pretty safe bet though as far as an upgrade. And I don't quite have the cash to spend on. So I want to go stage 3 and see how the car handles and what it's like. And then if I need to throw a turbo on it, I can. It would be nice to just to only use like an all motor build with just the if I could think just the engine. Okay, and I did tune the suspension. Trying to think. I think a little less caster would be better. And we'll see what the transmission's like now that it's upgraded. Is there anything else for now? Oh yeah, that's right. 5th gear was super, super long for some reason on this one. So we'll go super short. See how that reacts to the half mile if we get one of those. I don't think there's a half mile at the Tokyo dockyards though, so we don't have to worry about it quite yet, but we'll still get a taste of what it does in 5th gear once we get there.
gent reacting sessions have been able to secure the Tokyo dockyard this weekend. I suspect it has something to do with the connections they made back in
Let's go
the
ahead and
1990s.
get the quick one out of the way.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Round one is up.
Ah, we got Wade. All right.
And
This will
we
be
need to
interesting.
find out which one of these lads are going
He
home.
is one of the quicker ones at this stage of the game.
That's right, everybody. Cover your ears, cover your ears. Now that is a proper show, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah, that's much more usable there in fifth. We might have to go like one tick up for half mile stuff to make sure we can get to 250. But yeah, that's much more usable.
This wouldn't be complete without Ryan Cooper. He's legend, legend on the strip. Few come any faster than
I do think that a newer version of this game would be really cool, where like modifying for, because like they've got all the arrow kits, but they're the same regardless of what you're doing. But it would be cool to see like, oh, if you're upgrading the car for drag racing, then eventually it becomes like a pro mod looking car. Like that's the kind of arrow kit you could throw on it, rather than just that kind of generic body kit that they have. Because that's the whole thing that they say at the beginning is like, yeah, you need specialized cars built for this type of racing, but then they don't really let you go into a huge amount of specialization of them. It's also a shame that the opponents don't actually use different cars for different events. That would have been nice to see for sure. So we had our first sub 8 second lap, which is good. Uh-oh. Dun, 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 dun. It's my terrible impression of the Jaws thing. Also, I like how his wheels don't turn at the right rate there.
what a race, what a race. The big names are really starting to get into it this weekend. Ryan Cooper's off to a decent start as well, you know. I believe he's actually raced and beaten some of.
Okay, so let's see if fifth and sixth are any more usable now. That was a massive change to the drag car, but I did have everything turned way far over towards uh, being tall gears. This one was stock, so we only have basically half as much adjustability, or it's not going to be as dramatic of a shift for fifth and sixth as it was for the Chevelle. But we'll see what it's like here. God, it still dropped down. Okay, so it dropped down like 2,000, but it does seem to be pulling better. That's interesting. It's not exactly how gearing works in real life. I've kind of wondered how the gearing is handled in this one as far as like tall and short and RPM. And this transmission's so dramatic that it does kind of illustrate that. It's easier to spot what it's doing because it's so dramatic. So it dropped it down to the same amount of RPM, even though I changed the gear ratio of it, but it like accelerated through that gear faster, which is not how shorter gears actually work. Or at least just changing the gear. Let's see, could you... It would take changing the entire transmission, I think, to try to get it to do that, to where like fourth gear is the same speed, but then you drop the same amount of RPMs, but get no. Yeah, no, the math doesn't add up there. Yeah, it shouldn't drop to the same RPM, but then accelerate faster through the gear. The shorter ratio would mean that whenever you shift up from fourth, with fourth gear being the same as it was before, um, you should be higher up in the fifth gear RPMs. And then it should also accelerate faster through fifth gear because it's just shorter in general.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know me. I'm normally the quiet guy, stands in the corner, hardly ever says anything.
Basically less, is it
But after
less?
watching Ryan Cooper's last race, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I predicted great things from Cooper when I saw him at his very first reactive
Okay,
sessions race.
I'm getting
He spoke
distracted here.
personally,
So,
unstoppable.
hey, 5 grand in cash, I will take that.
Which the gents at Super Promotion will be very anxious to speak to young Mr. Cooper.
Don't
We
really
know
want to
Cooper
mess
and his
with
drivers can
the
show down on top of us
drifting,
right at this very
because
moment.
yeah, all I did was adjust, or no, I put a drivetrain on it, yeah.
We've got real
I don't have to
engineering
use it yet, so I won't.
here. This is Orlando
We
right
improved it
fastest
in
corner
case we
in
need it later
here.
before we can throw more money at it, but I also just noticed there that for some reason the rear brakes on my STI are still the stock yellow ones, which is interesting. We said we really only need the big brakes in the front. Taking the front wheel drive approach where the rear tires are just there to keep the back of the car off the ground, I guess. Oh, that felt good. Wide open around the outside of the turn there. All it took was level 1 tires. It'll be interesting to see how it accelerates at those higher speeds with the power upgrades, the actual like engine and turbo upgrades. I think this one has a shot of beating the 911. It may not be as easy to drive as the 911 because that's the car that I use myself to beat the Nuzlocke Challenge and the grip races at the end of the game. Ooh, just a little touch of the wall there, that's all. Left that guy in the dust, jeez. Not gonna get an aerodynamic toe off of him. No, it's too far ahead. Now I got a toe off of him though. At least until I hit fifth gear. Cut down the inside, very nice. Not gonna get to use all the NOS on this lap though. Just too short. Ooh, man, I thought I was gonna hit the inside wall there. That was nice. We'll just use this last NOS to get through it quicker. Collect our rewards. All right, not bad. Yeah, that's main thing is it's getting tons of points too. Hey, nice. That we will take as well. Well, that's probably going to be a good spot to end the stream. A little bit of a shorter one today. Um, I don't have the setup quite figured out yet. My dad and I are going to be practicing our rally stuff tomorrow on the new WRC game, but I don't have like the lapel mic configured to go through everything because we in the actual car when we record him doing pace notes during the race, he's got that to a separate recorder. So that's how we've been kind of recording that stuff. But if we live stream it rather than recording it, I have to figure out how to do all that at the same time. I don't quite have that yet. So nothing going on tomorrow. Might be back this weekend. Probably be another kind of shorter one like this one was. But feeling pretty good about where we're at. We've got I think we've got a good car under us with the STI. We still have the question mark of what we're going to do speed challenge wise when we take on the Autobahn. We'll have to look at what car to do for that. So that might be where we start the next stream as far as what we're doing. What kind of money do we have right now? What was our total? 49. Okay. We'll probably do can't do Ebisu. So we'll probably do Mondello Park just to get a little bit more money, and then take a look at what speed challenge car we want to give a shot at beating the rest of the game with. So we'll do that, and then we can head on to the Autobahn. If it is good there, we might do Ebisu again just to get us a little more cushion of money. Obviously, depending on the car, it'll be a real test for it because there are some jumps on these races here that will upset a lot of cars. So it'll be interesting to see how whatever we pick handles that. So yeah, there will be, like I said, I think we're good with the grip car. I'm pretty confident with it. We'll see how it handles the next set of races once we get up to the super promotion stuff. But we still have the question mark of what we're going to do for the speed challenge. So that'll be kind of the main focus, I think, on the next stream. But yeah, appreciate y'all tuning in. It's been fun, and we'll see you next time.